Does I need to turn this on?
All right, so we are doing the Midrash for our readings today, for portion Pinchas, and the readings again were from 25:10 to 30 verse 1, 20 and 40 of the book of Bamidbar or Numbers. Before being Midrash, though, Scripture says you'll eat and be satisfied, and you'll bless Adonai your God. It's a good land He has given you. So let's do that. Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied. We thank you for the land. It's in Yeshua's name we thank you. Amen. All right, again, our readings, the Aliyot. First verse there, with Pinchas being first verse of verse 11 there, you see? You good, Aleph? English translation. Yeah, so according to the usual count of Sefer HaChinuch, there are X number of positive and X number of negative mitzvot in this portion. And by positive mitzvot, we are talking about do's, and negative mitzvot, don't do's.
There were a lot of do's on how to sacrifice.
So here's a breakdown: is either six positive and 0 negative, 5 and 2, 11 and 7, or 19 and 6.
I'm going to go with D. There was a lot of how to sacrifice.
I'm going to say C.
I was going to say, otherwise it's C, but
Wayne's track record is in C. Let's just say that.
but it's either C or D.
Either confirm or deny what today's answer is.
You're fixing to confirm or deny.
Yes, but in the meantime,
You can confirm or deny.
Yeah.
not at this time. There's a time for everything.
I think B is going to be the first one.
Yeah, there was quite a bit in
Are you ready to make your guesses?
You
All right. First one out.
I guess D.
Really?
I guess D.
Oh, you're kidding.
Okay, then it's got to be C.
Oh,
wow.
Well, there went all that logic.
Last one out.
Well, they probably combined a lot of it.
You never know how to count.
I know.
6 and 0. 6 positive, 0 negative.
You gotta be kidding. They mentioned in the other ones.
Here are
Okay.
the first 3 of the 6. The precept on the law of inheritance, to offer the daily burnt offering,
Okay.
the additional offering for Shabbat.
So I don't remember any negative do nots.
These are all positives.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah,
that should have been a clue.
Yeah, you're right.
To offer the additional offering for the Rosh Chodesh, new month, the additional offering for Shavuot, and to hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Interestingly, that would say that the offerings for Sukkot must have been included elsewhere and counted from elsewhere. The different, it was one of the interesting things. We often, in terms of Sukkot versus Shemini Atzeret, is it a 7-day holiday or is it an 8-day holiday, right? For Sukkot. this is clear from the offerings that there's a big difference between Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret in terms of the offerings. So you can see where it's sometimes called an 8-day holiday, other times a 7-day holiday. But in terms of if the temple was standing and there's a system in the offering system was in place, the Levitical system was in place, it'd be a big difference between those. You'd recognize the difference, particularly with the priesthood, about what the differences were for that.
Well, I've heard people call it 7+1.
That's accurate, I think, because it is tacked on right away. It's right behind it. So Shmini Atzeret is sometimes called the 8th day solemn assembly. If you're camping out, for example, it's hard to
Break down your tent.
break down your tent and leave if you were to do that. Although it's not required to sleep in a sukkah on that 8th day. Rosh Hashanah, of course, is in scriptures called Yom Teruah, the day of shouting. Perhaps. To hear the sound of the shofar is the last one listed on there. Judaic Press Complete Tanakh translates as a day of shofar sounding for you. Teruah is traditionally understood to be the shout of the shofar, since the shofar sounded on Rosh Chodesh, according to Psalm 81. It is a holy convocation. You should be at your gathering to hear the shofar sounded. But what about the idea of hearing the sound of the shofar? What if someone is unable to hear? How can they keep the mitzvah? They can't, can they?
No.
But it's not the only mitzvah that has that hear or listen attached to it, right? The main one you might recognize is Shema Israel, right? Listen or hear, O Israel. So it's baked into Torah to listen or hear. And even Paul uses that phraseology. Faith is by the hearing of the ear, and the hearing of the ear by the word of Elohim. That's translation of Romans 17 of Paul's writing. So it is, you can perhaps come to the concept of keep the mitzvot that apply to you, or do the best you can with them.
With what you got. With what you got.
Right. So you could potentially, you could know the shofar is being sounded by get your hand on the vibrations of the shofar. You can feel the shofar potentially. Or
You could
know it
also
yourself.
see how people react around you.
The dogs start howling.
Well, yeah, or, whatever.
So the theme of the Torah portion, as I've drawn it from, is from Pirkei Avot. In a place where there are no men, endeavor to be a man. Because in this case, Pinchas stood up when no one else stood up. He was willing to take the risk of standing up. And there were some risks we'll talk about in a little bit.
Well, there's other places in the scripture that tell you that if you see something wrong going on and you don't do it, you're just as guilty as the person doing it.
You're essentially giving you're saying that it's not wrong.
Yeah.
And you can see that from last week's Torah portion, they'd already known that something was wrong and going on within the leadership of Israel.
We had a few plagues going on at the same time, so it's
Right.
kind of
His action averted a plague, that's for certain.
And he was doing what they've been told to do to begin with already. Go and kill the leaders of Israel who joined themselves.
You're just responding to what was asked of them.
What was commanded.
He was obedient.
Well, they weren't being executed by a spear, though, right? That's not exactly what they're told.
Impaled.
I think they're being hung, aren't they? Is that what?
That's what some versions say. Others say impaled.
Well, from what I understand, during that time, they didn't hang people like we did in the Old West.
No.
You're impaled.
Yeah.
You're hung on a tree, you're impaled.
Stuck to the tree.
You're stuck
And that's
to the
basically what he did. He impaled them through with one spear, both of them together.
with a branch.
But the woman was not on the proverbial hit list, though, right? The woman was
Yeah,
not
she
covered.
was-
The woman was not covered by the instructions, right?
She wasn't in Israel.
Right. So she wasn't covered by the instructions for the leadership of Israel. She was not part of the leadership of Israel. So she
No.
was
But she was the means by which Israel was being led astray.
She was participating.
She was a woman, a bad woman of the other side that was leading Israel astray.
right. But what was that? Were the instructions to kill the bad women who were leading Israel astray?
Yeah, it was to kill the men.
It was to kill the men, but she was kind of
Yeah,
under him, so.
What are you going,
Spirit
she's
went
right
through.
there amongst the Israelites, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
Kill the man, wait till they're done, kill the man, tell the woman go home?
No,
Because it also says earlier in there, if you're caught in adultery, both the man and the woman will die.
Well, there's no indication that this is a case of adultery, though, is it?
it's adultery to God.
Right.
That's what the term joining yourself to Peor means. And prostituting, the women of Peor were prostituting the men of Israel
Away from
to
God.
get them to condemn themselves because no one else could condemn them.
Right. That's exactly what Balaam taught them, right?
Right. That's how it was being done.
Are you implying she could have been a leader?
She was one. Well, she was in
Well-
the family
She
of
was
them.
leading straight.
She was basically you'd call it like the princess in her own right. Her dad was a prince,
She was in the family of a leader.
of a leader. Well, she was the leader's daughter.
Right. Which adds again to the risk that Pinchas took in that.
Yeah, because they could have come for
They could have
blood
come-
for blood,
She was an important person and
She was the daughter of the king of Midian.
there's no refuge, cities of refuge there.
There were none, but Midian wouldn't care about seas of refuge, would they?
No.
no.
They
You know what? There's,
They
no
wouldn't
matter
care.
what we think about what he done, the ultimate judge gave his seal of approval
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
by giving him peace for life.
Covenant of peace, right? We'll talk about that a little bit as well. Right. So, what do you like about this reading, and what bothers you about it?
I think it was interesting when they get to the sacrifices for Sukkot. How they individually is each day, although there is a difference in how many bowls are done.
Yes.
Because there's different populations in each one.
Yeah, but it's interesting how it was important that they listed each day instead of just saying on day 6 and past that, just delete one,
Yeah. It was a precise record.
It stands up. Each kind of listing stands on its own precise record
Yeah.
of what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
Why did they decrease it?
Well, I think when we get to that, that if you do it that way, the number of the bulls adds up to a certain number,
70,
70.
which means the nations.
Right.
But you're doing it for 7 days, so why not just do 10 a day, which would be 70? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then they're tireder, so there's less work. as
Well,
they go.
who's to say they did them one tribe at a time? Why couldn't 3 or 4 of them been doing it at the same time? I mean, does it say that
No, it wasn't one.
only
tribe.
one tribe, one peoples did it on this day, and then the next day another people did it?
No,
The next day another people did it?
I think it's all Levites here. Isn't
it's
it?
all Levites did it.
But I mean the clans under the Levi.
It would be the priesthood that actually does it, so the Cohens.
So that could have been one day.
What do you mean?
That's a lot of work to be.
The priest did it every day.
I mean, for this special occasion, not for the
A lot
regular.
of animals to,
It's a lot of work.
Right, remember, we talked about this before, but the 24 priestly courses, all the priests weren't on duty all the time, but all the priests were on duty during the holidays. You had all the priests there at the gathering, like Sukkot. It would be a lot of work, you could say, but that's kind of what their job was. I mean, it was a big deal, obviously, to do those. But never really thought about why did you do 10 per day? Honestly, that's a good question. It adds up to the same number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to add to the mystery of a text.
Just because I told you so.
Yeah. Okay. A test for Levi to not just make them, hey, the number 70, let's just do 10 a day and make it easy.
Yeah.
Not a cookie
Well,
cutter.
then it would be listed differently each time in the scripture. But in the fact that it is listed each day and it's just not, decreased one each day, I think it shows God's preciseness and what he wants done, and he's clear in his to be obedient. I mean, that's a lot of lambskin to write on. There's a reason for it, because I've heard several people talk about it. If it's repeated, it's important. And because space is at a premium when you're doing, I was amazed when we saw the scrolls from the Dead Sea Scrolls. The lambs, they're only this big. So,
Well, we're started probably bigger because the cave worms have caused a lot of holes in the text. But
no, but when you can see it rolled out, they're not that big. And space is at a premium. And so if it's repeated, it's important.
so where does that fit in under the questions?
Oh,
Is that what you like about it?
well, I don't know. Your take is relevant. I'm just thinking that telling you about Yeshua, about God or Yeshua, he's precise and
okay.
it's important.
Uh-huh.
And he listed everything out daily. Okay, I don't like a lot of writing, so I would have said it a lot more concise. Just repeat it and decrease the number each day. I didn't like that you guys had to read all those names. There,
I didn't like that either.
I know. I felt you did really good. If
No,
I had-
I don't be.
No, if I had done it.
Blowing
it would've
smoke
been
in my
awful.
eyes.
I always feel like when I have to read other names, it's painful for everybody else to listen.
Next, if I ever have to read that again, Wayne, on that one,
What was
I'm going to say this dude and that dude, this dude over here, and that dude.
that's the is that the Message translation?
That's my translation.
Speaking of it,
That's for sure.
there's a new translation out there that's taking a lot of heat for basically, it's called the Passion Translation. I never heard of it. I saw a couple of videos that basically lambasted it for changing and simplifying and, not rendering things properly. It's a translation to avoid, from what I understand.
Is it for children?
I don't
The
think
guy
so.
wrote it for his children and put it in an easy language for them. But when people started investigating, it wasn't true to, he took a lot of liberty explaining things. And so they feel like he wasn't true to the original text of things that it was written
I
in.
could see that he becomes something,
Yeah.
and say, well,
And sometimes it
Put the
reads really
children-
pretty and easy, but, you know, if it's not gonna tell the truth, then
It's a interesting read, but not a Bible.
right, yeah. It's a story.
So if you get down to question 5, is a short summary. How would you characterize the text, if it's possible to characterize? I mean, it's quite a bit. I mean, there's the Pinchas side of it, but not all of it's about Pinchas, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Pinchas was obedient, and God blessed him and said that his family will always be high priest, his descendants. Then you get into all the sacrifices. God was awful precise on that.
Think of what I would tell someone is, man, here it is, go read it.
There was one little phrase that said something like God liked the aroma, or the sacrifice was a
Oh,
sweet
yeah.
aroma.
That's,
Hey, God likes barbecue.
That's what my husband said. God really likes barbecue.
Yeah,
that's mentioned.
it's kind of funny.
one of the interesting things that Bill Cloud said this morning in his Midrash, I guess, Drash, was that in the sin of Adam, the sense of smell was the only one that Adam didn't use
Oh, how interesting.
when he sinned with Chava.
He saw,
Yeah,
he touched, he
He
tasted,
but smell wasn't it.
smell wasn't it.
Huh.
Interesting.
Right. So I do have a video from B'nai Avraham. Let's see if I can get this to
Warm, patient tone.
back up here so I can get the volume higher before we get started. Probably somewhere about there. Let's see how that goes.
It just went down a bunch when you said it now.
Oh, just a sec. Too loud? I don't know. We'll see.
Find out, turn it on.
Warm, patient tone. Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed? Like there is a wild, chaotic storm of frustration or anger trapped right inside your chest, and you just don't know what to do with all that big energy? This week, we read a portion of the Torah called Pinchas, and the story opens right in the middle of exactly that kind of intense storm. The people of Israel are facing a massive, terrifying crisis, and everything feels like it's falling apart. Right at that moment, a man named Pinchas steps up. He responds to the danger with an intense, fiery energy to protect his community. The Torah calls this highly focused action zeal. Think of it like your body's fight or flight response. When there is a sudden emergency, that sudden rush of adrenaline is incredibly helpful. It gives you the immediate focus you need to keep yourself and others safe. But here is the surprising part of the story. After the danger passes, God does not give Pinchas a medal for fighting. He doesn't tell him to stay angry or to keep using that fiery energy. Instead, God gives him something called a covenant of peace. God knows that while intense energy might be needed for a brief, scary moment, human beings are simply not built to live inside a thunderstorm forever. Looking at this puzzle diagram, we see that shalom, the Hebrew word for peace, requires active assembly. We build this condition of wholeness piece by piece, using 3 essential ingredients. Let's look at the first piece of our puzzle. To build peace, we have to let our internal fires fade away. We must quiet the noise and learn to listen to a calm, gentle voice inside ourselves. The prophet Elijah discovered this exact lesson. After experiencing raging winds and earthquakes, he realized God's presence was found within a still, small voice rather than the roaring fire. Once we learn to quiet our own internal storms, we can move to the second piece of the puzzle. Right after the big crisis ends, God gives Moses a surprising command: count the people. Moses is told to conduct a massive census. He needs to tally up all the families of Israel and see exactly who is standing there before they pack up and enter their new home. Now, as you can see in this animation, a massive crowd can easily look like a sea of identical dots. God uses this count to demonstrate that every single person uniquely matters to him. And that is our second lesson. A truly peaceful community requires us to ensure that no one feels invisible, forgotten, or left out of the final count. This brings us to a historical problem. In this flowchart representing ancient laws, you can see how property was passed down. The inheritance path goes straight to the sons, while the path to the daughters is completely blocked by a red barrier. This was the exact situation facing 5 sisters, Makla, Noah, Chagla, Milcah, and Tirzah. Their father had passed away, and because they had no brothers, they were entirely blocked from keeping their family's land. The sisters did something incredibly brave. Instead of accepting an unfair outcome, instead of starting a bitter fight, they stepped right up to Moses and the community leaders and respectfully asked for their fair share. Moses takes their case to God, who answers, "The daughters are right." On our flowchart, the red barrier dissolves. The Torah's laws update permanently, so all women after them receive their inheritance. This reveals the third and final piece of shalom for us. Peace requires us to be brave enough to ask righteous questions and speak up for fairness, just like those 5 sisters did. With the community preparing for its future, Moses learns his time as a leader is coming to an end. It is time to pass the baton to his successor, Joshua. Before he steps down, Moses offers one final prayer for his people. He asks God to appoint a leader who will act like a gentle, caring shepherd for the community. Shepherds pay attention to the specific needs of every sheep in the flock. This kind of leader looks past the anonymous crowd to see the unique individuals who require specific personal care. And there is our completed picture of shalom. True peace is achieved when we calm our internal storms, make sure everyone in our community is counted, and find the courage to speak up for what is fair. So as you go through your week, I challenge you to look closely at your own life. Think about how you can use these 3 lessons to build a little more peace in your home, at your school, or your neighborhood. Be a peacemaker. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, so some key names and definitions. Pinchas, mouth of brass. A couple different versions of that, whether it's an Egyptian name meaning dark-skinned. According to tradition, Pinchas is Pinchas's uncle Moshe, his own father Eleazar, is married to a Midianite. But again, that's a tradition, with Putiel being another name for Jethro or Yithro. Pinchas we see in the book of Judges, late in the book of Judges, he's still alive and he's the war priest for Israel.
Give him a covenant of peace, and he turns out to be the war priest.
So yeah, he has a covenant of peace, so it doesn't have to worry about perhaps the effects of war. I'm not sure. It is a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? Zimri, of course, might recognize related to the word for music or song. Alternatively, praiseworthy, or one translation says it means wild sheep or goat. Not sure why the big discrepancy there. It seems like Zimri would be mind music. That seems pretty, something about music. Cosby, she is the daughter of one of the 5 kings of Midian. I'm not sure if Cosby itself is deceptive or my lie. Her dad would be killed in chapter 31 of our text, along with Balaam. Now, we mentioned that well, the video mentioned zealous. There's actually a couple of translations for the text here in terms of how zealous or vengeance. What our scroll has, when he's zealously avenged, and so I did not consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. The T is my vengeance, or and so it's the question is it vengeance or is it something else? Zealousness. Zealousness is included in the first one. This is how the Judaic Press Complete Tanakh by Chabad has zealously avenging in my zeal. If you go back, it's not my zeal, is what Archibald says, my vengeance, but Chabad has my zeal. The New Judaic Press, not New JPS, Jewish Publication Society version of JPS has it as passion. New American Standard says jealousy. So what is the meaning of jealousy or zeal or passion or vengeance? What do you think is going on there?
That'd be the same phrase as where God said that David was a man after his own heart.
Say that again?
David was a man after God's own heart. Would that be kind of similar phrase? He has a zeal toward doing what he thinks God wants him to do.
Could be a similar idea, I suppose. Yeah. David was, even though David didn't completely, he had some sin issues of his own, he was counted as a man.
But his zeal was to do what God wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, you might recognize, in terms of the texts there, what is Shemot or Exodus chapter 20 talking about? 10 words, right? So it is I think it's the faithfulness part here. It's the same. It's verse. I won't just skip to verse 5, but I'll read the second of the 10 words. Starting verse 3. You're to have no other gods before me. You're not to make for yourselves a carved image or any kind of representation of anything in heaven above, on the earth beneath, or the water below the shoreline. You're not to bow down to them or serve them, for I, Adonai your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents, for the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Verse 6, displaying grace to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my mitzvah. In chapter 34, also in Exodus, verses 11 through 17. Observe, I'm ordering you to do today. Here I am driving out ahead of you the Amori, Canaanite, Hittite, Prizzi, Hivi, and Yebusi. Be careful not to make covenant with people living in the land where you are going. You won't become a snare within your own borders. Rather, you are to demolish their altars, smash their standing stones, and cut down their sacred poles, because you're not to bow down to any other god. Adonai, whose very name is jealous, is a jealous God. Verse 14. So what does it mean there for him to be jealous, or vengeance, or jealous, or passionate? It is anti-idolatry, you could say, perhaps. And according to that, he said his name is jealous. So the risk we're talking about, which command of Yah was Pinchas obeying, who should have been involved? Well,
it was called for all the men to gather. I think everybody was supposed to do it.
Yes, I think that everyone was called to stand up against the sin of idolatry, which is, I think Jim mentioned already, somebody else mentioned already, which is spiritual adultery. Persistent, stiff-necked attitude, or the laxity, if you will, towards idolatry, will eventually bring about the exile. We see that we read it in our hospital reading of Jeremiah, that because Israel was put in exile because of their adultery to Yah, or spiritual idolatry, or idolatry, rather, spiritual adultery. So there are some textual anomalies in the text that we see if you're reading from a Tanakh or a scroll. There is some small letters, and as you go through these, you'll kind of see the same things we discussed before. Numbers 25, 8 through 15 is missing from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there's no way to find an older than a Masoretic text version. But in 25:11, the second verse of our portion, the first verse of the second verse of a portion of the name for Pinchas is listed. The Yud in Pinchas is in a small, it's small, kind of a small Yud. And this is Monty's take on it. It says that the letter Yud means a hand. Of course, we knew that kind of from the Yud is very similar to the word Yad, which of course means hand. Pinchas was Aaron's grandson, priest of Israel, just for crossing the land. Having contended with the error in Israel due to the teaching of Balaam, Pinchas slew one of the sons of Simeon and his wife. It averted God's plague upon Israel. Pinchas was also granted something we are all hoping for, the covenant of peace. Small Yud seems to indicate that small works with our hands for God go a long way toward the things of the kingdom. So what's the danger? Well, we've talked a little bit about it. Summary executions without witnesses and trial are against the justices prescribed in the Torah. And so the danger, perhaps, would be that killing a prince of the tribe of Shimon meant that the avenger of blood could have, was within his rights to seek Pinchas's blood. Of course, and there weren't any ways to escape. The cities of refuge were not established yet. So that's a danger that Pinchas could have faced. As mentioned, the city's refuge hasn't been built yet. If you're trying this case, if the case came before the elders without all the evidence that we see in the text, how do you determine whether it was righteous zeal or a cover for murder? If there was nothing else to go on, if there was no plague to stop in this case, if there was not evidence, so to speak.
Stones.
Could be.
Oh, that's a good point. Truman and the Truman.
Maybe that's why God stepped in, because people would have looked at it and not been able to determine motive.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than have that guy go through, because God knew he did it righteously, it's like, I'm just going to make it clear so nobody has any questions about it.
It seems like the plague started because Israel wasn't doing what it was supposed to do in the first place. But if that wasn't the case, then it would be very difficult to determine whether it was just, is it really true that he had was supposed to do that or not? Very difficult to determine. And since he was a priest and a war priest in that sense, he can't serve the tabernacle while contaminated by death, so he risks that.
Okay, now you could take that with the story that is in the New Testament about going up to Jerusalem, the priest that goes up to Jerusalem and he doesn't want to touch the guy because he doesn't want to be contaminated to serve in the
Right,
temple.
the quote unquote Good Samaritan vignette.
Yeah, the Good Samaritan, thank you. So you could sit there and say, oh, I'm not going to do anything because I'm a Cohen and I don't want to be contaminated by killing somebody, so I'm not going to do it. But he went ahead and did what was right, even though it kept him from serving in the into the tabernacle for a while until he became pure with the red heifer and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be at least a week out of service.
Out of service.
Mm-hmm. But obviously had a greater weight in maintaining that.
Right.
So, as we mentioned, Pinchas did get an award, the Covenant of Peace and Eternal Priesthood. 2512, Covenant of Peace. Again, also a textual anomaly. We're looking at a Torah scroll. You see that when it says Covenant of Peace, the Vav in Shalom is broken. Shalom, of course, 4 letters there. The third one over from the right is the Vav that's broken. You see that the lines are not touching. Again, this part of the text is missing from Qumran. You can't tell how old the broken Vav writing is. My view, the Covenant of Peace is not yet connected, but this Vav, of course, number Vav is 6, will be restored when the Covenant of Peace is fully in place. Going to other discussions of Covenant of Peace in Isaiah and Ezekiel. Covenant of Peace and Covenant of Eternal Priesthood. This is ArtScroll's commentary. Will demonstrate my gratitude and goodwill toward Pinchas. So Yah's gratitude toward Pinchas. The pledge of my covenant should be seen as a greeting one sends to a person to whom one is indebted. Alternatively, the covenant of peace was a pledge that Phinehas or Pinchas will be protected from the ire of Zimri's kinsmen and supporters. So Ibn Ezra. So in other words, protected from the
No.
the danger of blood.
Yeah,
Right?
revenge.
Lex Talionis.
What?
That's what Lex Talionis is. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, life for life.
So 25:13 says, "It shall be for him and his descendants after him a covenant of a perpetual priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the sons of Israel." So this puts him in place as making atonement for the sons of Israel, as in some ways a type and shadow of Messiah. Because you know that when Yeshua returns, it's going to be it's going to be bad for his opponents, I think. Making atonement for the sons of Israel. So we see Pinchas listed here. It's not a small print, but it's in 1 Chronicles 5, or being a translation, could be in 6:3-15 or 5:25-41. Quite a bit of versification difference. But the sons of Zadok are descendants of Pinchas, according to 1 Chronicles. We read down the list here. And in verse 36, it says, Azariah, it says Cohen, house of Shlomo, built Jerusalem. Azariah fathered a bunch of folks, and one of those was fathered Zadok. Zadok fathered Shalom. So this is the genealogy of the descendants of Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aharon. So this is from Ezekiel, the Kohanim, who are Leviim, the descendants of Zadok, who took care of my sanctuary when the people of Israel went astray from me. They're the ones who will approach me and serve me, is they will attend me and offer me the fat and the blood. So this is Adonai Elohim. Go into my sanctuary, approach my table to minister to me and perform my service. So remember, this is the text of Ezekiel 44, 15 and 16. So what's unique about Ezekiel 44 in that sense? It's part of the text from Ezekiel 40 to 48, which talks about a temple that has yet been built. This is in the future, a future temple. The descendants of Zadok will be in charge of that. So is this the link to the everlasting priesthood granted to Pinchas in a sense? I'd say it's definitely a link. I think that I can see that the priesthood in the future will be part or from the descendants of Pinchas. So the covenant of peace prophesied appears to come after the new covenant is fully in place. It may be linked to that event. So the covenant of peace is after the new covenant, which is interesting.
So it'll be during the millennium.
Could well be that case in terms of if the covenant of peace is after the new covenant, then that would be part of that. It would be linked to that event, but it'd be probably at some point in the future. Could be a millennial sort of reign like that. Yeah. So another textual anomaly is 26:1.
There's a lot of them in this one.
There are. There's a gap in the text after 26, between the two chapters, between the end of Numbers, Bimidbar 25 and chapter 26. Monty says it draws attention to what is said next. And so what's said next is take a census. And so what's interesting about taking a census here? What's going on with the census? Do you take a census on your own? No, right?
God said, and it showed how many warriors were of the other tribe, and then it counted differently the amount of Levites that were a month old. They weren't warriors.
Right. And so what's the purpose here? Why take a census now?
How many went into captivity?
And it showed that those who came out of Egypt,
600,000.
it said that nobody was left that had been counted in the census before that when they came out of Egypt.
So what's happening next, of course, is Israel's about to go into the promised land and conquer it, right? And so it makes sense to know for Joshua how many men you have in your
How many fighting men?
how many fighting men you have, yeah, how many warriors you have. So why weren't Levites counted?
Because they weren't the warriors, but you wanted to know how many.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it was,
Fighting men.
Well, they weren't the land that being divided up, they didn't get it.
They didn't get land. They weren't
Yeah.
really part of that. Yeah. Well, I have a slide here that shows the pluses and minuses. Who had an increase or decrease in their population from the first census to now? The tribe of Simeon, Shimon, was way low. They were 37,000 lower than they were, 37,200 lower than they were previous, whereas the tribe of Manasseh was plus 20,000.
and then Issachar went up almost 10,000.
Yep, that's right.
And
Asher,
Benjamin.
11,900.
And when you get to the end of all of them, it's not too far from the same.
True, the overall numbers are pretty close. That is correct. But the number of the tribes are quite a bit different from where they were.
Population of each tribe shifted greatly.
Mm-hmm.
The overall number stayed pretty even.
600,000 in and 600,000 now.
So despite all the plagues in their,
Yeah.
they're pretty close. So the land of Israel will be divided into three ways, or divided three ways: by population, by lot, and by inheritance. Population by population is based on you can look at it as rationally by your own merits, the number of population. It means you have to have a larger split place. By lot, that's divine decree, and by inheritance, of course, that's what inheritance is. You can see that we get to chapter 26, it's talking about the census of the Levites, and what's the difference between this census and the one that happened in Numbers chapter 3?
The age, like these had to be counted from a month old,
Mm-hmm.
and then, and that other one, wasn't it?
The other ones are 20 years older.
They
Right?
were fighting then.
Right. Well, what about if you turn back to chapter 3, verses 14? This is again same book. And Numbers.
Numbers 14.
Yes, 3, 14 through
39.
39. And so in verse 39, what does it say the number is there?
39?
22,000.
22,000.
So again, pretty close. It's 23,000 here from Numbers 3 to Numbers 26. So just a plus 1,000 by the Levites.
And you would think there would be way more, since they're counting from a month old as opposed to 20.
Well, I think in this, in Numbers 3, they're still also counting from a month old or
That's
older.
just new.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah.
But so they're kind of differently than the number of.
Oh, okay, so they're 1,000 difference.
All right, so then we talked. There's inheritance. That's what this is the daughters of Zelophehad. That discussion of inheritance and the way to keep Israel's land in the family. And the answer was, yeah, that was right. That was the right thing to do. Moses brought the case to Adonai, and Adonai answered Moses, the daughters of Zelophehad are right in what they say.
Well, now, somewhere else, doesn't it say that if for the daughter to inherit it, she has to marry within the tribe? Somewhere else it says that.
Right.
So she can't have married into the tribe of Judah if she was from the tribe of Dan and keep her
If she was due
father's.
to inherit land, that's correct. Yeah, she has to marry within the tribe. According to Midrash, the rule of the inheritance eluded Moshe. He was chastised for crowning himself with authority by saying the case is too difficult for you, bring to me. In this case, it's too difficult for him. Anyway, it's just a Midrashic thought on Moshe. Again, another text here. The enlarged Nun Sofit. In Et Mishpatan, which is as you see, the construct form, the of form, feminine plural of India mishpat, which is of course mishpat. What's another word you can translate mishpat? Judgment is a way of looking at it. Yeah. But it's yeah.
Okay, I'm not, so what does that word mean? Because I'm reading Numbers 27:5 is Moshe brought their cause before Adonai.
Yeah, cause in this case is mishpatan.
The cause is the word.
Yeah. Judgment in that sense. Again, it's about the daughters of Zelophehad. I'm sorry. They're from the tribe of Manasseh. Yeah. Judgment. So there is an enlarged Nun in Exodus 34, verse 7, in which there was it's talking about the attributes of mercy in that text. So mercy and preservation of an inheritance or lineage could be related in that sense. That as Monty insists, therefore the large moon here speaks to the inheritance of our fathers, our heritage, being preserved even when a physical recipient is missing in the lineage. So it's a mercy in a sense to the daughters of Zelophehad, but it's justice as well. So we're told to have a holy convocation in this this passage. Talks about which one's a holy convocation. We saw it as the Yom Teruah, it's a holy convocation. So Mikra Kodesh, Mikra is the word that is to call out, and Kodesh is holy or set apart. And that's kind of what Paul is writing about in 1 Timothy. When I come, give attention to the public reading of Scripture, exhortation and teaching. And it's part of our liturgy, but it's part of the Scriptures. It says, for Moses from ancient generations has never seen those to preach him or proclaim him. He's read in synagogues every Shabbat. So a Mikra Kodesh we had today when we read the Scriptures aloud in our public reading, in a sense. So looking at, this is the slide, it's hard to read perhaps, but it's on the left is the number of bowls, so to speak. And it does add up to 70. And one of the, there's a discussion from the rabbis talk about the double nature of Sukkot. Display why the offerings are double. In other words, you go back 2 rams instead of 1, 14 sheep instead of 7, normal. But what about the bulls? According to this tradition, we should bring only 3 in each day of Sukkot. So why are we bringing extra 10 the first day, extra 9 the second, etc.? So the answer comes to be, he says it's rather cute, but if you add up the numbers, it adds up to a grand total of 49 extra bulls. This number, in the multiple of 7, is commonplace in the context of festivals. Number 7 in the Chumash always relates to our recognition that God alone controls what we perceive as nature. And this awareness becomes ever more critical on Sukkot. The junction overlap between the end of the previous agricultural year and the final harvest, begin a new one, is the upcoming rainy season. So we add the 49 to the 21. We normally find that the total number is 70 bulls offered during Sukkot. Sages point out that these 70 bulls are representative of the 70 nations of mankind. 70 bulls and 7 nations. We read from in the book of Zechariah, of course, that when Zechariah 14 says that the nations that went up against Israel must go to Israel for Sukkot, or they won't get any rain. Brings us to Dixie's picture. What are your questions or comments that we didn't cover in our readings today? Or our discussion of Midrash today?
When it talks about the amount of animals, how many of this animal, how many of that animal.
Yeah.
Who's bringing that amount? A family or all of Israel or a person? Who brings all of that? I mean, it says so many per what? Person? Family? Or tribe?
That was the nation.
Well, yes, it's not 13 for family or something like that.
It says the whole,
the whole number. The whole number, yes. From the Israel offering is 70 total, so to speak.
Or does it mean each tribe?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it tells any tribes are bringing it.
As a nation, as a whole, people as a whole.
Yeah.
That's sweet, you not.
Because that could be, what I was thinking is that was individual,
Maybe it's
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, no, that'd be
It's a
very,
nation.
very, yeah. It's,
Or even as a tribe.
Now, did the priests raise their own animals for the sacrifices in the temple?
I think they did, they had their, either they purchased them from local or they had their own herd. I don't know which one's more accurate to say that.
But when they count them all, they count every what? Every 10th one or every 7th one is set apart.
Oh, yeah.
Save
I
them,
remember
right,
that.
All right, you cut them from the herd because they're going to be used for sacrifice later.
So this is, it kind of starts at the beginning of chapter 29. On the seventh day, on the first day of the month, you're to have a holy convocation. So it's you all, it's all Israel is the overall, the context, I think, is individual tribes. It's really talking,
Well, when we first started today, it talked about each tribe, give what they gave.
yeah. It's a community, I would say. This text though is back in chapter 28, in order to people of Israel, tell them you're to take care to offer me at the proper time, the food presented to me as offerings made by fire. And then it goes into these, and then it talks about Pesach, Shavuot, 7th month, on the 15th, and then it's Sukkot, 15th day of the 7th month, you're gonna have a holy convocation. You are to do kind of ordinary work. You observe a feast, present a burnt offering made by fire by bringing a fragrant aroma to Adonai. To consist of 13 young bulls and so on. It goes into
Yeah, so it's talking to you bring,
You.
means you bring.
you all.
When I say
Y'all.
Y'all.
It's tribe, your tribe bring,
The nation.
the nation bring.
Yeah, well, they're not going to have more than one Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah, right? So it's only one Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah for Israel. So it'll be only one Sukkot for Israel as well. So it's just Israel is bringing these offerings, and the priests are ones offering them. It doesn't give specifics on how they acquire those necessarily in this text anyway, but it's not a multiple of that. It's that number is the number we brought. Right. Well, thank you, Alma, for allowing us to midrash on your word today. Thank you for your wisdom, your insight. And thank you for Yeshua. Thank you, Yeshua's name, for our blessing received.
Oh, thought we did